Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Walls with Carla. I've got a word from the Spirit of the Lord to share with you all today. It is about sudden judgment that is coming to particularly America, surrounding the political elections that's taken place, as well as the deception and the things that's been going on in the unseen realm. And so, yeah, it's not over yet, guys. And so, stick with me throughout the entirety of this video to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. And so, thank you so much for your likes, your comments, for subscribing. I so appreciate you all. And happy Thanksgiving to those that are celebrating Thanksgiving this weekend. I've left a Thanksgiving message in the description box below, so go ahead and check that out afterwards. So, yeah, I'm going to jump right into the word. And so on Sunday, this past Sunday, the Spirit of the Lord would lead me to the book of Daniel, particularly chapter 4. And this is where we see King Nebuchadnezzar. He was a mighty king of Babylon in those days, and he had a dream. And it was disturbing to him. So he called the prophet Daniel. Daniel was a man of God, and he had interpreted dreams for the king in the past. And so the king called upon him because he knew that he had insight and he had been given favor from the Spirit of the Lord. And so Daniel interpreted the dream for the king, but it was not favorable. Basically, the Lord was trying to convey to King Nebuchadnezzar, who had become quite mighty in the land. And one of the analogies used in the dream was that his branches stretched forth throughout the land. And he had become very proud and he was exalting himself. He had built a golden image and wanted everyone to bow down to this image. And so, the Lord said that if he didn't change his ways, that, God's favor would depart from him. And so he didn't heed to the warnings. And so one of the things that he said was that, is not this great Babylon that I have built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? And so we see here that he was being very proud and exalting himself. And in the moment that he said that, in that very hour, the Spirit of the Lord, the favor of God was removed from him, and he was thrust into the wilderness, and his kingdom was removed from his power for a season, right? And so what the Spirit of the Lord is saying is that, there are many, and from a particular party, without calling the party's name, that has exalted themselves, and their branches stretch forth throughout the land. They have become very powerful. They control the masses, the media, and many powerful supporters are in their corner. But they have become incensed against the people of the land, and they have ulterior motives and their own altars, and they are exalting themselves above the Spirit and the knowledge of God. And so God is saying that judgment is coming to them. When God gives a person authority and power, because the scriptures tell us that it is God that causes a king to rise and another king to fall, and causes, kingdoms to rise and kingdoms to fall. God is in ultimate control. And, when a particular group of people believe that they have the power and that they are in control, God says that no, I am God, and that He alone is in control. And so God is causing sudden judgment to take place. And I was reminded of the children of Israel when they were, they were visited by many plagues and so forth that God allowed. And so too have many, and have we been visited by plagues and, viruses and lockdowns and pandemics and, ulterior motives, deceptions, and altars. But, God has allowed it because ultimately God is in control. But when this particular group of individuals believe now that they can control the masses and they have all the power, and that, everyone is under their rulership and their authority, well, God says, no, it is God that is in control, and God has the power to show man who is God. And so even as the children of Israel, when they were up against the Red Sea, and God caused the Red Sea to part, and they walked through and went through the Red Sea, but then the Pharaoh and his people came after them, and God caused the walls of the sea to close in upon Pharaoh and his men. So too shall sudden judgment come against those that have been incensed against God's people. The scriptures tell us the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, and all that is contained within. God is in ultimate control. And God is saying that because they have become so prideful, thinking that they have all the power, God is going to shift things and shake things, and their power shall be removed from them, and their kingdom shall fall. Their platform shall fall for a season. And so that is what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. And then even King Nebuchadnezzar, he opened when his senses came back to him, he said that, that how great are God's signs and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion is from generations to generations, right? And Proverbs 9 verse 10 states, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. And hear what Psalms chapter 14 verse 1 says. The fool has said in his heart that there is no God. They are corrupt and their deeds are vile. There is no one who does good. And it's hard to fathom when we see the heavens and the earth that declares God's glory, that anyone would say that there is no God. And so it's not that they don't believe that there is a God. No, they have become so prideful that they're exalting themselves above God and saying that they have the power to do as they please. But because their hearts have become vile and evil and incensed against God's people, right? God has stepped in, and sudden judgment shall come. The scriptures tell us in Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 6, for as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might, right? And Acts 17 verse 28 says, we live and breathe and have our being in God. There's nothing that we can do without God giving us that breath in the beginning. And so when they have used their power, the very power that God has given them, they have used it against God's people and against God, exalted themselves above God, well, judgment is coming. And so That is the word from the Spirit of the Lord. And, God wishes that none would perish, that all would turn their hearts to Him and repent. But there are those that have exalted themselves, like I said, and turned their back on the foundations and the fundamental values of God Himself. And so God is in our midst, and sudden judgment is coming. So that is the word. I thank you all so much for your encouragement, and I appreciate your subscriptions. And as always, keep your sights on the things that are eternal, for it's in the eternal things that we can move beyond the walls.